Welcome to a very special storybook explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a truly magical tale together. So picture this. Long ago, right beside a quiet, gently rolling sea, lived a brave young girl named Mira. Now, while all the other children were fast asleep, snuggled warmly in their beds, Mira would actually sit alone out on the rocky shore. She'd hold this little glowing lantern, listen to the calming rhythm of the ocean waves, and just watch the stars shimmering across the giant night sky. She was always wondering about the magical world waiting just beyond the horizon. You see, every night as she sat there, Mira would think about her grandmother's warm, comforting face. Her grandmother lived in their cozy cottage, and she had this incredibly wise, almost magical energy about her. She loved sharing these beautiful stories about the sky. She would gently whisper to Mira, "Some stars fall not because they are lost, but because someone in the world needs hope." And you know, Mira just absolutely loved that story. It brought her so much peace and comfort as she looked out over the dark, quiet water. Her grandmother would also talk about this secret, wondrous place called Star Valley. Basically, it's a hidden, glowing sanctuary where fallen stars land softly on the earth. Can you imagine a whole valley just shimmering with this gentle, warm light? Well, one really spectacular night, the heavens were putting on a show with a huge meteor shower. And suddenly, a bright silver star streaked right across the dark sky, blazing with light, and then quietly disappeared behind the steep cliffs just past Mira's village. Mira literally gasped. It was a fallen star. Now, Mira knew exactly what she had to do. Without even a second of hesitation, she grabbed her trusty little lantern and rushed right out into the howling ocean wind. The night was pitch black, for sure, but her spirit was shining so bright. She just knew she had to find out where that beautiful silver streak had landed. So Mira's incredible, but honestly pretty perilous journey began. Right around midnight, she was carefully climbing these steep, dangerous, rocky cliffs near the sea, pushing through the freezing cold wind. By 1 a.m., all that bravery paid off, because she actually found it. She discovered the secret Star Valley, and wow, it was breathtaking. We're talking hundreds of tiny stars floating over the grass, resting inside glowing flowers and shimmering next to crystal streams. The whole place was glowing like moonlight. And then, at 2 a.m., underneath this huge silver tree, she heard it, a soft, sad little sound. She found a tiny star, literally no bigger than her hand, and it was crying. Its silver light was just flickering so weakly.
"Are you hurt?" Mira asked it super softly. The little creature just nodded sadly. Its light was barely there as it whispered that it couldn't get back to the sky. So Mira very carefully knelt down and scooped up the tiny star. She said it felt exactly like warm sunlight resting right there in her palms. With so much empathy, she leaned in close and whispered, "I'll help you." She made a promise right then and there to protect its fading light.
The little star softly explained the valley's magical rules to Mira. First things first, they had to make it to Mira Lake, which was right in the middle of the valley, and they had to do it before the sun came up. Step 2, the star had to touch the glowing water of the lake. And finally, step 3, that magic water would allow it to float safely back up to its home in the sky. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, the journey was actually full of shadows. You see, the valley was hunted at night by these things called shadow birds. They were these dark, super mysterious birds made entirely of thick smoke and creeping shadows. They had these glowing eyes and massive, sweeping wings. And their main goal? To search the dark skies for fading stars. So yeah, they were pretty frightening. But Mira knew she had to be brave. She held that warm little star tight against her chest, completely determined to protect it from the dark wings up above. So, Mira bravely trekked deeper into the unknown. By 3 a.m., she was making her way across these amazing fields of glowing, magical flowers. By 4 a.m., she was carefully stepping over sparkling crystal bridges that actually glowed right under her feet. And then, at 5 a.m., something really wonderful happened. Other tiny, lost stars started to join her. Some were blue, some gold, some silver. They just floated along right behind her, making this beautiful, comforting trail of floating lanterns in the dark. But then, the peace was suddenly shattered. Huge, dark wings swept right across the sky. The shadow birds had found them. They swooped down, literally blocking out the moonlight, and the little stars started trembling with fear. Mira's heart was just pounding in her chest, but she had to think fast. She quickly and incredibly carefully hid all those terrified little stars right underneath the glowing branches of the valley's trees, keeping them totally out of sight while the mysterious birds searched the air overhead. The entire valley just held its breath.
It felt like forever until finally those giant shadow birds flew away and disappeared into the thick clouds. Mira let out this huge, warm sigh of relief. The tiny stars safely peeked out from the branches and gathered really close around her. And the absolute smallest star, still glowing softly right in her hands, looked up at her with these wide eyes and whispered, "You are very brave."
But the night was moving fast, and the big question was, would Mira and the little star actually make it to the lake in time? Mira rushed forward as fast as she could, and finally, just as the absolute first hints of morning light were about to touch the edge of the sky, she made it. Mirror Lake. The water was perfectly still, shining exactly like smooth silver glass in the dark. They had made it with just moments to spare before sunrise.
Then, one by one, that beautiful trail of tiny stars stepped forward. As every single little star touched the glowing silver water, this breathtaking magic happened. They just started floating upward, twinkling brighter and brighter, returning so beautifully to the heavens, right where they belonged. I mean, it was an absolutely magnificent sight to see.
Before long, the whole sky was filled with returning lights. But down on the shore, the absolute smallest, most frightened star was still trembling weakly. It looked up and whispered, "I'm scared." Mira looked down at her tiny little friend. With the softest, most comforting smile, she whispered right back, "You're not alone."
Very, very carefully, Mira stepped into the shallow water and carried the little star all the way to the center of the magical lake. And the exact second she set it down, the most amazing thing happened. A massive burst of silver light. The water just exploded into this magnificent, radiant glow. And suddenly, that tiny, weak little star was shining brighter than it ever had in its life. It radiated this incredibly warm silver light that chased away every single shadow left in the valley.
Slowly and beautifully, the little star began to float upward into the dawn sky, finally heading home. But right before it vanished completely among all the other stars, it paused. It sent this bright, twinkling silver light straight down to Mira and whispered one last parting message. "Whenever you feel lonely, look up." As the sun really started to peek out from behind the mountains, painting the whole morning sky in gold, a sort of bittersweet magic took hold. The secret Star Valley slowly started to vanish. Those beautiful, glowing flowers just faded right into the morning mist. The crystal streams dimmed down and got quiet. And soon, the whole magical valley was completely gone. Where all that wonder had just been, there were only the ordinary, quiet sea cliffs standing in the morning sunlight. Mira walked back home peacefully right underneath that bright, warm morning sky. But you know what? The magic wasn't totally gone. That very night, she went back to sit on the rocky shore, and she looked up at that giant ocean of stars above her. And right there, shining out brighter than all the rest, was one small silver star twinkling back down at her. Her special star was finally home.
And that actually brings us to the end of our storybook explainer. The real takeaway from Mira's beautiful journey is that even the absolute smallest light can guide someone through the darkest of times. Whether it's a really kind word from someone, a brave friend standing by your side, or maybe even a tiny falling star, there is always, always hope. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Have you ever felt a small light guide you? Remember Mira's amazing courage and always remember to look up.